can you introduce yourself and just share how long you've been homeschooling and how long you've been in CC?
I am Leslie and joined CC 8 years ago. And once we joined, I have three kids going into fifth grade. So our second year of Essentials and Challenge A and Challenge 2. And once we heard the vision of CC, saw how it goes all the way through high school and the accountability we get week by week, we were sold. And we're in. I've directed Foundations for 4 years, and now I'm going to direct Challenge A.
And can you share your recent Facebook post that has resonated with so many people?
Our former children's pastor called me one day and said that he was asking if I was interested in international missions because he needs someone to train at a classical Christian school. And he knew we had done CC because it met at our church, and he had seen us there every Monday taking over the building. So he associated classical Christian education with me. So he called me. He's like the first person I thought of, and we jumped at it. And the opportunity to take Caleb was big too, to be able to expose him to that. I didn't realize how God would use him, but just to expose him to a different culture was important to us. They had 280 kids at this classical Christian school there. It's 3 years old up through sixth grade, right up my alley with all the Foundations experience I've had and Essentials. So we jumped on it and took Caleb. And we were told we were going to be training the teachers one day. I brought copies of the core for every teacher there. My friends donated copies of the core, and we brought those. So I'm explaining the stuff, and they came and said, there's no teacher in primary 3. It's third grade. It's like, let's go. So my son, one other lady and I were teaching or training the teachers, and there were 8 other people who were building a new classroom for the school. So my son was one building. So I was like, come on, Caleb, let's go do this, and called him in with me and asked him to draw the world on the chalkboard, stick in the sand, as they say, because they have a chalkboard and chalk, and that's it. So they didn't have maps. There was one map in the sixth grade room. It was what we would consider blobbing, like we do with our kids, and it didn't even have Asia. It was part of the continents, but no Asia. So he got up there and on the board drew the world from his Challenge A experience 2 years ago. I was able to draw the world. And I did the chants we had learned, the continents, and thinking it was 45 minutes long, we did continents, then we added in oceans, and thankfully I've been learning along with the kids my whole Foundations career. So I knew the oceans, we knew the continents, we knew the major, and we could do the lines of latitude, longitude, we could do that because I had learned it. So we did that, and then we talked about how Jesus has the whole world in his hands, and I think it's a song from CC Connected that he's got the whole world in his hands that mentions all the continents, and we taught the kids the continents, just like that, with his drawing, and they said they wish they had paint so he could paint his drawing on all the rooms because they didn't have a map that good, and that was from his grunt work in Challenge A, and it was hard. It was hard to make us do this when we didn't see a purpose. Yes, we can draw the world, but we have maps, we have internet, we can Google. They don't. We always tell the kids just that we don't know what God has planned for them. And he didn't know in Challenge A, when he was up in his room tracing over and over and over the continents, that God would use him 2.5 years later to teach kids and encourage kids and show God's love to kids in Africa.
That is awesome, man. That's amazing. And then you had also mentioned that he had done a research paper.
Oh, yeah. Okay, our first, we flew in late at night, like 10:30, and the next morning, one of our teammates had sent someone to get me, and she's like, I can't get out of bed. I'm so sick. And we were praying, and we're like, I don't know what is wrong with you. My son came in because we were next door to them in the room, and he's like, I think she has altitude sickness. What's the altitude here? So we were asking, and it's 5,000 feet. It's high altitude. Didn't know that. But in Challenge 1, they write I think it's a 3,000 word research paper on the topic of their choice. And he had chosen high altitude and how it affects sports and athletic training. So he had spent weeks and weeks researching this. So he lists off the symptoms because he knew them. And she's like, yes, yes, yes. And then he listed how to treat it. So we just lots of Gatorade for her. And she was able to get up within a couple of hours and join us for the rest of the day. And I was like, well, praise God that he had written a paper on high altitude. Again, not knowing why, but God works all things together. And it was good for him to see too, to trust, just trust us as we're giving him these assignments where he doesn't see a purpose. So now we may not know the purpose now, but God has a plan.
That's awesome, man. And it's so true to life as well. A lot of times in my life, man, God, why am I going through this right now? It could be a month later, it could be 6 months later, it could be 3 years later. Now we can draw from that previous experience and encourage other people with whatever that experience was that we had gone through. How Caleb was able to use it, went to the dialectic stage, but then the rhetorical stage where he, taught, did it and then taught it, taught from it and stuff. You guys did the singing and stuff. I mean, that's just such a powerful lesson and testimony.
We were actually training the teachers, and we asked them why they teach, and they were all just blank. They don't know why. One has a college degree, the rest are high school equivalent. And they didn't know why. So I wrote up on the board to know God and make him known. And I was like, this is why I teach my kids. This is why we do everything we do. Foundations level is to know God, and then we learn to make him known with the presenting and teaching and all that. So that was encouraging too. I'm like, God used CC in so many areas that I hadn't planned on. And the headmaster was very happy because that's what he's trying to instill in them, that's why we're doing this. We're not doing this to teach math, to teach, it's not subject by subject. We're knowing God and his whole world so that we can in turn make him known. Amen. And it was good for me to see. I mean, that's why I've done the work with the kids for the last 6 years to know him. I've learned more in my years of CC than I did my own high school, through college, through teaching, right. Yeah. Public school. Yeah. Learn to know him, truly know him in his world. Well, one thing they're working on over there, because it goes through 6th grade. And like you said, we're doing all this grunt work through 6th grade, and they're not getting the fruits of it in the high school. So they are in the process of buying land to do a secondary, because that's the goal. In order to change Rwanda, we've got to raise up a group of Christian, classically educated kids, that are going to change the whole country back. Just like what we're doing here in the U.S. has got to happen in Rwanda as well. Because one of the other things too that I've been very, very impressed with as I've been able to travel around and meet some of the challenge students is their ability to think and think critically. Yeah, and this man has a great vision. Yeah. For class, it just surprised me to hear classical Christian education in Rwanda, but that's how they're hoping to change it. Wow! By raising a generation of thinkers and biblically based thinkers with a Christian worldview, biblical worldview. That's awesome. Godly thinkers. Yeah, that's right. And so, from your perspective as Caleb's mom, what did that experience do for him? I think being in Rwanda and using the information he learned has encouraged him to keep on learning, even when he doesn't understand why he's learning what he's learning. He now gets it that God has a plan, and we don't see the plan. I don't know the plan for him. I don't know if he's going to be a missionary somewhere, but by learning Latin, he can learn any language. So that's good. Let's keep learning it. And he now sees just a purpose for all of this. Instead of I'm tracing maps, I'm doing busy work. It's not busy work. It's all God's work and preparing us for who knows what. And how did that trip impact you, ma'am? Oh my goodness. God showed up. There were so many times that I stood at that board after an hour and a half of teaching continents, and out loud I was like, God, please give me words to say. And the song of He's Got the Whole World in His Hands that we had learned back in Foundations popped into my mind. And I'm like, let's do that. Let's switch to that. There were so many times that God just led us. And one thing that me and my friend kept saying was, if we are 100% willing and 100% obedient, God will do the rest. So just be willing and be obedient, and wait and see what God's got. What's God's got? You don't know how he's going to use you to bless others or others to bless you. You just have to be willing and be obedient. That's awesome, ma'am. That's exactly right. Thank you for being willing and being obedient and
blessing already. You've already blessed thousands of people.
No, it was reading the comments from people, though. It was cool. It was good to see that encouraged them